the foundation for a successful startup or a successful technology company is in the value they give to their users, not in how much they pay their staff. And there's something about success. Success is relative for every ecosystem. Success is relative for every culture. Success is relative for every country. But in Africa, success is what people celebrate, meaning success is not defined. Right? Whatever people are celebrating is what our culture defines as success.
Explain.
How do we infuse AI into our governance models, into our corporate structure, into monetary policies, into our general ecosystem that would optimize our operations, solve or probably trickle down corruption in a bit, solve or trickle down getting good governance to the people?
So, Nick, thank you for coming, my brother.
Thank you very much, man.
So, while preparing for this, I was binge watching a movie, Silicon Valley. I don't know if you have seen that movie. It's funny, so I will give every founder or aspiring founder should go watch that movie. It gives you insights to how the tech ecosystem work globally, though. So I was watching the movie. I watched four seasons. My weekend. That's what I spent my weekend doing. So it showed me how to build a product to take a product from ideation to execution. So they were trying to build a product called Piper. Don't watch it with kids, so they were pivoting at every time, pivoting. But it also shows the culture that they have, going to events, the hustle culture. Trying to get from 1 user to 100 users, and when they get to their benchmark of 500,000 users, they still have to deal with the fact that they don't have repeat customers. So people are not, their product is not sticky enough. So I want to ask, this brings me to my first question. What kind of culture have you built in the tech ecosystem in Nigeria?
So that's a tricky question.
Okay.
It's a two-part question in my opinion. In terms of culture is two-faced, especially in our ecosystem.
Okay.
There's the workplace culture, there's the product culture, and then we also have like a raising culture out of it, which is basically how you're going to fund your business.
Okay.
Right. I'm of the opinion that at the level where we are currently, tech is seen as, from a cultural perspective, something for youngins. Basically, youngins trying to innovate existing traditional systems, right? In a bid to improve the average life of the African. Basically, that's where I'll put it at. But the perception outside of the ecosystem that this is like a youngins ecosystem, right? For mid-30s, under 30 guys, under 28, thereabouts. Basically, that's the culture that we are currently. And it's three-faced. There's the work side of it, there's the user side of it, and then there's the funding side of it. If I were giving my own opinions, what I would want to be the culture that we ride on is basically what you just described. I don't see any ecosystem that would thrive without a very, very user-centric culture. And I think we have that currently, but I think it can be better. It should be better. These days in our ecosystem, a fundraise announcement is as though you've hit it. Like, that company, quote and unquote, that company don't blow. Do you understand? Or those founders have made it. Maybe I get like a $6 million raise. Like, man, we've actually made it. But that is not it, right? The foundation for a successful startup or a successful technology company is in the value they give to their users, not in how much they pay their staff. Do you understand? So funding helps you scale, they help you with marketing, but the foundations has to be a user-centric culture. We sort of have it, but I'm pretty sure it can be improved, right? We should celebrate user milestone, acquisitions as loud as we celebrate funding. And I think that is something that would greatly improve our culture. Imagine like this company has hit 1 million users, or they hit 500,000 users, and there's a press release to that effect. Basically, listing exactly what they've been able to do over a certain period of time.
Mhm.
So the youngins that are coming up will build, and there's something about success. Success is relative for every ecosystem.
Mhm.
Success is relative for every culture. Success is relative for every country. But in Africa, success is what people celebrate, meaning success is not defined,
Hmm.
right? Whatever people are celebrating is what our culture defines as success.
Explain.
So, for example, let me use traditional mentality, for example. Maybe um, success is trendy. That's the word for it. But maybe, for example, the G wagons have been around for a while, right? If probably been the car that I'm not sure. I'll need to check. But the models have been existing since the 90s.
Yeah.
But it was not a big thing. It was maybe the V boots that was like, you had that V boot, man. And I'm not sure you can be broke again in this life. Do you understand my point? And when somehow, maybe the media or what have you, the trends pushed G Wagon, if you owned it, it became a status symbol.
Mm.
Do you understand?
Mhm.
So what if a number of people agree to celebrate something?
Yeah.
The culture sort of revolves around, it means if you have it, you're successful.
Mhm.
Do you understand my point? So if you use, maybe you use, there was a point in time where if you had a BlackBerry, it means you're well to do in a certain way. Now, probably if you're with an iPhone 16, it means you're trying, basically. So you're pushing towards success. It doesn't mean you actually have money, but you would be perceived as living a certain kind of lifestyle.
Mhm.
So with that being said, our culture currently in our ecosystem is putting reason at that pedestal. So when you put it at that pedestal, people will chase it. Do you understand? So it is important. Trust me, money is the blood. I run a business, right? So without funding, to be honest, you go under, right? But at the pedestal should be a user-centric ecosystem where we celebrate milestones in deliveries to customers.
So I want to talk about the culture just being in Lagos only. It's
Well, yeah, there's that, but to be honest, I don't think it's something that is bad or good. It's something that we can structure.
okay.
For example, I'm not, I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm confident that bulk of what drives the startup culture in probably the US is in California.
Yes, Silicon Valley.
Do you understand? Bulk of what drives Hollywood will probably be in Los Angeles or somewhere around Hollywood or thereabouts, right? So every ecosystem typically has its HQ from a location perspective. The only problem where it would now be problematic is when you have an HQ in Hollywood, but you're not producing cowboy movies because probably there are no cowboys in California.
Yeah.
That's when it will be problematic. So it's not an issue if the culture is tilted to focused on the Lagos market due to the population, the spending power, the attraction of talent. That is really not a problem. But it will not be a problem when we are not innovating products that work for somebody in Maiduguri or Borno or Katsina or Rivers or Abuja. That's when it's now problematic because the purpose of an ecosystem is to solve the country's problem, not a state's problem. And it's only when you're innovating across the entire ecosystem, across the entire population, that's when you're actually making change, or that's when you're actually solving problems. Let me say, for example, Money Points, for example, right? They've basically changed the game in a lot of ways for a lot of small business merchants across Nigeria, basically, right? Kudos to them, and that's basically what I mean by culture expanding across a certain ecosystem. It shouldn't just be in one location. It's not a problem if it's headquartered in one location, but when it is not innovating to solve problems, for example, if you're building a product that requires fingerprint scan, Face ID, blah blah blah, in Nigeria, you're already alienating a certain market segment automatically because there are just certain people outside of the people we know or outside of certain ecosystems or certain areas in the country that would not have access to those devices. Some of them are not even aware there's a new iPhone 16. Right, 200 and over 200 million people are in this country, and with diverse cultures, a lot of tribes. So what we define, our definitions of a lot of things is different. Technology, there are still certain places that don't even have internet access. Do you understand my point? So from our innovations, it's revealing our target market and it's revealing our worldview of what our country is. So where we are on a cultural level, I think is good, but we can improve it, right? We can start building an ecosystem that the 50-year-olds want to be part of, the 60-year-olds want to be part of, the 40-year-olds want to be part of, the 30-year-olds want to be part of. And then we are also prioritizing a user-centric approach. Let's celebrate user growth. Let's celebrate, oh, we've been able to hit 400,000 customers and we serve this type of numbers. Let that be like a big deal as much as a $10 million funding announcement.
Okay. That's a classic one. But moving on, let's talk about from a CTO perspective. You are the CEO of ChainConsult, a technology company. You build software for a company. If I want to build a product right now, how do I know that this product is I'll get users for this product? How do I build a good product that is sticky? What will your advice be?
That is a product by product question.
Okay.
But if I would give like a generic answer, it's always good to validate what you're building before you build it.
How do I validate?
So it depends, right? So what you're building, no matter what you're building, that is a mobile app or a web app, for most of the time, there's a way you can replicate it offline and get user feedback. Do you understand my point? So if you want to build a service that does this, why not do that service directly and ask people exactly what they want to change in the way they are currently using it? Because it gives you an idea. Most of the time, right, what you build and what people use are different. Facebook did not launch with the ability to upload photos, if I check. Do you understand? If they ask you what is the most popular feature that people use on certain startup products currently, and what they started with, they are very vastly different. A user-centric product, users are the kings, consumers are the kings in your product that you're building. You're just like the errand boy. That is the first step. You need to understand. You are the servant that's trying to serve people. So you need to know exactly what they need before you know what you're serving them with. It's like going to a restaurant and the waiter doesn't ask you what you want to eat and he just brings food to your table. So you always have to treat your customers and you always have to behave like you are a waiter and these are customers in your restaurant. Validation is asking them exactly what they need. There are several ways you could do that via maybe Google Forms, or you're doing sheets, or you actually, if it's a business that is a data-related business, you use Excel to replicate the solution, for example, and just get user feedback. Because you might spend, to be honest, from my experience, like I run ChainConsult, right? We build products for startups across the ecosystem and we consult for a number of them. You can spend 7 months to a year building something and then realize people don't need it. Do you understand my point? Not because they don't need it. Maybe at the time you were building it, they needed it. But in the next 9 months, they no longer need it. Do you understand? So that's why I said in terms of culture, we need to be consumer-centric. I've always been a firm believer as technology would be a tool that would transform sub-Saharan Africa. I honestly am a firm believer, not just politics. Technology would play a key role, but technology would not play that role if we don't build to solve our local problems.
Okay. So now talking about sub-Saharan Africa, I want to dive into some data.
Okay.
I was doing a comparative analysis between China, USA, Dubai, and Nigeria. And somebody should please fact check this. China has given, in terms of AI funding, we're talking AI now.
Okay.
In terms of AI funding, China has allocated $300 million for it. The US has allocated $200 million for it. Dubai is about 20 billion. No, $300 billion, billions. The US $200 billion. Dubai is about 20 billion. And Nigeria is about $3 million. I'll post where we got the research. My team came up with the research. In terms of funding, they have been able to attract, in terms of public funding, China is closed. It's a closed economy. It's a communist economy. So their data is not always there. But the US have attracted $400 million
Mm.
in terms of funding for AI
Mm.
through private investors.
Mm.
So it gives it's we're in a world whereby electricity will dominate.
Mm.
So if you have electricity and you're able to power your
Mm.
country,
Mm.
you're able to get robots and
Mm.
AI
Okay.
data centers.
Okay.
So when we start talking about manufacturing, it's no longer people again, it's robots and AI that will be
True.
doing manufacturing.
True.
So looking at Africa and where we are in the world, are we ever going to catch up in this AI battle?
First of all, I think the gridlock we have is a little bit of mental and cultural, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we've sort of positioned ourselves in a way we are consumers. So we think of ourselves as customers, not innovators. So we always don't want to lead the pack, maybe. Do you understand? So maybe when we look at the news and say, okay, China is producing 5,000 robots, the first thing that comes to mind is sometime in the future we would import them and they'll be working for us. What comes to mind is not we should start building them. And this is no one's fault. It's just a cultural, probably, I don't know. I don't know where that is sourced from, but that is a cultural problem. But in terms of what we should be doing, I'm not a firm believer in allocating $500 million for AI. We run a very, very generally, for the most part of sub-Saharan Africa, we struggle with corruption, right? So just allocating money will get missing. Do you understand my point? You have to bring practitioners in those fields, right? And then give them KPIs. Do you understand? And allocate budgets and have measurable KPIs that you want to measure them by. Do you get my point? AI is not just robots. That's like a far-fetched. Probably we don't have the technology, we don't have the factories. We are still trying to solve electricity. We've not solved electricity. So there's a whole lot on an industrial, like you cannot industrialize a nation without power. It's impossible. Right? So we've not solved the electricity issues to a great deal. Right? So industrialization in that direction, you can silence that for now. But there are several ways AI can help. There are several ways we can innovate our local problems. AI is not like a spiritual exercise. AI is not a magician. When you ask ChatGPT what is a Kelechi or what is ChainConsult or what is a mic, it is telling you what somebody else told you.
Yeah.
Do you understand my point? So AI is basically a learning model that you teach so it can help you do your job better. So even if we don't have the industrial levels to start building robots, we have the industrial levels to teach our own models to solve our local problems. Do you understand my point? So we don't necessarily need to now invest $10 billion like the US in. We probably might not have technology to scale that at this point in time. But what we can be doing at this point in time is how do we infuse AI into our governance models, into our corporate structure, into monetary policies, into our general ecosystem that would optimize our operations, solve or probably trickle down corruption in a bit, solve or trickle down getting good governance to the people. Do you understand my point? Like I said, AI is a learning model. It's machine learning. So what you teach it, it's what it gives you
But
back.
people make a case that we don't have the manpower.
What do you mean by manpower?
People that can actually build AI products or train these models.
No, we do. I would solidly argue against that. So it's because we've sort of overcomplicated it in our minds.
Okay.
Right? To build a machine learning model, it's not as complicated as you want to define it.
Okay.
Do you understand? First of all, there should be a willingness to want to innovate locally first. That has not existed before we discuss manpower. We have expatriates in this country doing different things, but we can't mention manpower for that. If we say we want to bring in expatriates to be then that is a solution. But we can still do those things locally. But first of all, what exactly do we want to innovate? For example, do we have the numbers of how many people average Oshodi to Lekki every day?
Lamata should have it now.
Lamata should I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It's a question. It's an open question.
Yeah.
Do they have those numbers? Are they accurate?
Yeah.
Do you understand my point? When we don't even have, when we've not sort of effectively managed structures to even collect data analyze data, and make actionable decisions based on that data. AI sounds like a far-fetched idea because AI works with data.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand my point? If we're having problems in, okay, let's say maybe, for example, there's a particular bridge in Lagos. I think it's the Otedola Bridge or thereabout. They say it used to have accidents, blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure what the issue is. So maybe it's because of how tilted it is, right? Or the slant or the degree, what time of the day these occurrence occur. Do you understand my point? If you have all those data, for example, you are able to look at your screen in a administrative office and say, if these conditions and the weather is this, and it on this kind of trucks pass at this kind of time, there is a 45% chance that an accident would happen. Because of the data has fed that model to understand that. Now we are putting AI in economy.
Yeah, true.
We didn't need to bring any expatriate to do that.
No.
We didn't need to bring thousands of robots. But we now have an AI system that can do predictive analysis of when disaster will happen somewhere because of these factors align with previous incidents. We don't need robots to do that.
Yeah, true.
We can't say we don't have the manpower to put that data into a machine learning model. There are thousands of engineers in Nigeria that can do that. Do you understand? They probably need to improve in training and all of that. But there's really nothing they can't learn if we set our mind to it. But the first has to be a willingness. Do we want to even solve that problem in the first place? Those are the questions we should ask. But we are still seeing that. That's why I said it is really mental. When we see technology, right? When you hear, there are certain things you see on your TV. You just believe it can never happen in Nigeria. You just believe you have to import it. I don't think anybody imagines a locally made phone, right, that is sophisticated as an iPhone that is probably made in Ibejuleki or is made in Port Harcourt or made in somewhere in Kano. No, I don't think our imaginations, it is still limiting. We see everything that defines progress as stuff that we import. The startup culture in the last 15 to 10 years has been able to mitigate that and reduce our need. But we have the manpower for these things. Probably
people will tell you that they don't trust Nigerian products.
Why?
I don't know. Some people will tell you that they don't trust Nigerian
I think
products.
that is still also...
I was a cinema manager for like 4 or 5 years, and my job is to market movies.
Okay.
I ran 4 cinemas across Nigeria. And one of the issues we face is when people come to the cinema and you give them the list and the breakdown of the movies showing, one of the cultures I imbibed in my team member was, you need to know every movie. Like, do your research because you are selling it.
Yeah, true.
Because I always look at it from this perspective of how many people come to our till, that means the point of sales, and how many people don't buy from us and how many people do buy from us. If you look at the numbers, if the people that don't buy from us is higher, that means we are bad at selling at our till. So we need to improve on that. Because at the end of the day, it's your till that you use in increasing your spend per head as the manager of that location.
True, very true.
So when people come in, so sometimes I spend time with my team members on the floor, and when people come in and you tell them about Nigerian movies, I don't like Nigerian movies. So the trust in Nigerian product is not high. So when it comes to made in Nigerian phones and the rest, apart from just producing it, you have to spend a lot of money to even get people to trust you to use those products.
Okay, it's good you go on.
So for me, I see it as it's not just about innovating. The culture has made it a way that they don't see Nigerians as efficient people that can create efficient products. They have it Nigerian. We worship what we get from the Western economies a lot more than we worship our own product. It's starting now.
So they don't believe Nigerian product because of the quality of the product or what?
I think it's a mental stuff.
So let me, like I said, when we started this episode, we talked about culture.
Yeah.
And I said what people celebrate is what defines the standards for success.
Yeah.
Do you understand my point? When you were younger, probably when you managed cinemas, right? Maybe when you were young and you were talking to a lady, you always have to make sure you tell her you don't like Nigerian movies. Do you understand my point?
Yeah.
So remember when you were younger now,
Yeah.
When you were talking to people, if you don't like Nigerian movies, it sounded like a cool thing.
Yeah, you're the cool guy.
Yeah, I don't like Nigerian movies. Like, it's not my thing. Like,
I remember when I was in school,
yeah,
I used to pride myself in, if you come to my, if you check my phone, you only see foreign music.
yes. Like,
But now
I only listen to. So, do you understand? So
Yeah.
culturally, we had built a culture that meant if you had a foreign accent and you loved foreign movies and you listened to foreign music, you're automatically more intelligent than somebody who was doing the opposite. So we're using that in a way to measure cool and intelligence. Right? Now, I don't think that is the case. Like, there's a lot of following for Nigerian movies.
Yeah.
There's strong local consumption for Nigerian music, even on a global level.
Mm-hmm.
So, the question to say, how do we get people to use Nigerian products from a technology perspective, you need to first answer, how did we get people to start loving Nigerian movies the way they love it now?
Entertainment is different from tech, though.
So, no, they are still the same modes. If you believe, for example, if you believe you wouldn't use this because it doesn't make you cool, and then you will change it if everybody accepts it and it makes you cool, right? For example, from a technology perspective, yeah, it's a little bit different because you're looking at something that is an efficient tool that is also reliable, and you always typically want to use something that already works, right? But for bulk of our startup ecosystem, bulk of the products that is actually leading in the ecosystem were built by local engineers. Yeah, Paystack founders are Nigerians. The CTO is a developer himself. I've read a lot of their brief. They were actively involved in writing the code, even from the UI UX designer. I think Flutterwave, I think a couple of them in the ecosystem. Even some of our banks, their apps, most of their engineers are local, right? When that shift started to happen, or when they actually validated our competence levels on a local level, and then they felt like, yeah, we could rely on them for this stuff. So I think most of the time, I don't necessarily blame the culture or the people. It just exists because people have not tried a successful one that has effectively branded their expertise. I don't want to buy a product because it's made in Nigeria. I even hate selling things that way.
Don't let some.
Do you understand?
Hear you,
no, no. I don't want to. What I'm saying is, I don't want to buy a product because it's made in Nigeria.
Yeah.
I want to buy a product because it's good.
Okay.
Do you understand my product? So if you sell a product as made in Nigeria, that's why you should buy it. You're tricking somebody.
Yeah, but they'll tell you we are using it to show up the naira.
No. My point. Get me right. What I'm basically saying is, from a marketing perspective, sell your product because it is the best solution in the market.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
If somebody, tell them they should go and try, like, for example, I lead an engineering firm. Yeah. I would not advise any of my customers to go and be integrating Stripe to collect, or PayPal to collect, because it will be strenuous for their customers to even pay when there are local solutions that are effective. But those companies that will be recommended, say maybe a Paystack or a Kuda or a Flutterwave, I will not be recommending them because they are made in Nigeria. I will recommend them because they are the best fit for their consumers. Okay. Do you understand? So we need to change our mind. It's not about showing up the naira. No, build world-class products that people can use. If you effectively market it to Nigerians, they would use it. That's what I believe.
Okay, so let's talk about AI agents. I did a lot of research on AI agents. Are they coming for jobs? That's one.
Okay.
Two, from a CTO perspective, how can businesses introduce AI agents to what they currently do? Where do you see?
What do you mean by AI agents? Do you mean from a customer support perspective?
You tell me. You tell me how you feel you can advise.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say AI agents are necessarily coming for jobs, except people that have not upskilled. Do you understand my point? So they're coming for jobs as is, right? But if you upskill, you always need to refine AI because although maybe some AIs do it, but one gap that human technology and human innovation cannot bridge is communicating emotionally. Do you understand my problem? Okay, that is it's good you ask this question. while I was at the link bridge, the Ikoyi link bridge, I got a call on my phone from a trading firm. And the person was like, "Hi, Mr. Nicholas, you haven't used us in a while. And like, I can reboot your account for you." And I'm like, "Okay." And the person was like, "You get an email, do this." But as I started the conversation, I realized it was a bot.
Oh.
When the conversation went deep, because of the kind of responses I was getting, right? So if I wanted to be very creative and maybe ask some internal questions, the person might probably be able to respond, but I would not still be able to connect with who I'm talking to. Do you understand? It will always be on a surface level. And every organization wants to be able to connect with their customers. Do you understand my point?
Yeah.
So there's a role for AI agents on a surface level to do surface level tasks. There will still always be a role for somebody you can talk to declare your problems. It's different between a chatbot and a call. It's just like chatting and then you're calling somebody. There will always be, there's an emotional part of support that you will not be attending to that will give somebody an emotional connection to your firm.
But
So
just to stay there, sorry for cutting you. Don't you think that we would train AI to the way, or they will train AI agent to the way that
they can do, yeah, they can do that. That's why I said you can upskill yourself. If you upskill yourself, you'll probably be the one training those AI models to think like you and updating how it works. Like, for example, to train an AI agent, for example, it's not the engineer that trains it. An engineer just writes code. He doesn't know how he wants the code to think. You're the one that would give him the how exactly he should do this when he does this. So the data that is using to build the model will be provided by somebody that has actually participated in support. Do you understand my point? So if you upskill yourself in a proper way, you have been able to index what you do in such a way you can give somebody to automate your tasks and then resell yourself as an AI.
Okay.
Do you understand my point? You get where I'm coming from? Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is, you know, when we always mention AI would not come, like ChatGPT, for example, bulk of the information, it was trained over a couple of years by real human beings. Do you understand my point? There's no doubt that it will take some jobs, right? But if you want to survive in an ever-evolving ecosystem, you have to upskill yourself. Let's say, for example, we're in a studio, there's somebody setting up camera for us. Maybe in the future, you can have a camera that will be detecting our movements as our head is moving. Nobody needs to move it. But for example, maybe if I turn back, right, you shouldn't follow my movement because it means I want to take phone. So you should cut that out, right? But the AI would not know this except somebody that has operated that machine before tells him. Do you understand my point? So if you upskill yourself, you will be at the front of the innovation. You basically even be the one recommending the AI because and training models is not a one-time thing. You always need to update it based on trends and activities. So you will always find, though it will reduce the size of the market segment in terms of the number of talents that you need to manage one stuff, right? But if you upskill yourself, you will always have relevance. It's something I actually believe.
But I see it from this perspective that if it comes and takes jobs, it also pushes so many people into entrepreneurship.
If it comes and takes jobs, so this is another idea I have.
Yeah.
When you take jobs, you create new jobs.
We create new jobs. So it gives people an ability to go in and say, okay, with this stuff, what can I build?
Yeah.
And I don't need to spend so much money, employ so much people. I can just come in and do the best job I can, and using this AI agent.
Yeah.
But moving on. Let's talk about our government policies in respect to
that's
IT.
a very tricky subject, but I'm very open to it. Yeah.
IT. How will you score this government in terms of IT? You're an engineer.
Are we talking Nigeria or Sub-Saharan Africa?
We are talking Nigeria. That's why I said this government.
So I've followed some of the policies they've been looking into, 3M, MTT, and the internet access, which is actually a laudable idea. But there are 2 things or 3 things that I think is the role of government for technology in an ecosystem like Nigeria: regulation, fostering innovation, and ensuring compliance,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is the three role I think government can play in tech. Regulation is to protect consumers.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? The main aim of regulating an industry is to protect people that use it, right? Innovation is to help innovators thrive,
Mm-hmm.
and compliance is to ensure that the innovators are compliant to the regulations that you've set in place.
Okay.
So, from a policy perspective, I would not discuss regulation first. I probably want to talk on innovation.
Okay.
What is the government doing to ensure it is easy for me to look at a local problem, build a tool around it, and I have an enabling environment for it to thrive? Enabling environment is not just funding. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
If I start a ride-hailing business for bikes like GoCarda, I think they've left the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they might have $50 million in funding, but there's no enabling environment for it because of existing structures that would not allow it. I think there was a point in time then, I think about when I used to travel, probably 2018, I can't remember, but 2016, 17, 18, one of them, I think I landed at the airport at Ikeja, and then even in Port Harcourt airport, or even some airports in Nigeria then, when Uber guys come, if you book an Uber, then, right, some airports, right, you have to use a bike to go and meet it because the local taxis would not let him enter.
Okay.
Do you understand my point? Because he was taking their customers.
Yeah.
That is where government needs to step in. So my problem is we should not confine the role of government to funding.
Okay.
Enabling environment is bigger than that.
Okay.
Right? So from an innovation perspective, I think we can do better. So internet connectivity, I think there's a current policy that they are pushing in that regard. So internet connectivity, ease of access to get the tools that are required to innovate. From a technology perspective, you can't innovate without a laptop, first of all. What is the cost of buying one? Have we totally alienated a segment of people because it's too expensive? Do you understand my point? If I need to do certain kinds of innovation, there are certain kind of AI models that you want to train, right? You can't use certain MacBooks for it. Do you understand? There are certain things you want to do. You can't use certain grade of Windows for it. If the cost of getting that MacBook or that particular laptop will cost me 900K, 700K, or 2 million, you have increased the lifespan of that innovation for that individual. So what is the ease of access to internet connectivity? What is the price of data? That will help innovation. Do you understand? What is the ease of access to getting these devices? What are the prices? The government wants to feature a policy that maybe we are removing tariffs or levies on importations of used laptops. Do you understand? The tools that the creative industry uses.
Yeah.
Do you understand my point? Do you want to subsidize it, or you want to just remove the levies that are on it? So the prices of these things do not get affected by the rising dollar rate. So your youth can be innovating.
Yeah.
Do you understand my point? So internet access, the ease of access to these devices, light. Do you understand my point? Light, because if you go to a lot of fast foods, then when I was younger in the early days, you find a lot of guys with laptops that will just buy meat pie and plug their laptop. Do you get my point? So if I was having that problem in the early days, probably 10 years back, and some people are still having it now who've not progressed. Do you understand my point? The industry has still not progressed. Now, due to innovation and some very good corporate sector people, private sector, we have working spaces that you can still pay to use if you don't have lights in your house. Right? So the things that help innovation thrive, they are very, very fickle. They're very small. That the government should put in place, right? But at times, from the outside perspective, you think, no, we need to make available a 400 million naira fund that would, that is fine. Do you understand? But you would reduce their burn rates if certain things are already in place.
True. True. I'm quite worried though. And I'll say this with all honesty. I'm quite worried. I feel like we leave most of these IT policies for the federal. I'm not seeing states take up IT policies. We're seeing it in a state like Lagos because it's the innovation center of Nigeria, but other states are not. And you need local products to solve local solutions,
problems.
like you
Yeah,
said.
true.
So I'm quite worried. I'm yet to see states be head on in terms of, okay, I want to produce more IT talent. I want them to train AI. I want them to go to our local communities, see problems they can fix, and I want them to fix it. That's where development comes in. It's not a situation whereby building to raise funds. It's quite worrisome when you have a culture of everybody just want to raise funds, and for you to build to raise funds, you must come to Lagos or you must come to the thriving city. Obviously, that's where the VC money and the private equity money is. But I'm quite worried. I'm looking for states, the states, the
State level policies
on, okay, I need IT talent. Even our local governments, there's no IT integration in some of our local governments. Some things are still done manually. I should be able to get into going to local government. Okay, have you tried getting your state of origin, that certificate?
I get you. Actually.
You can't apply online.
I don't know if they can now. I don't want to make assumptions. Probably.
You can't apply online. So let's go into some.
So this is it, right?
Yeah.
This is a 3-layer topic. I'll still discuss regulation. Now I mentioned innovation, regulation, and compliance, but this is a 3-layer topic. The average government functions based on the expectations of the governed. Do you understand? The expectations, if the expectations of the governed, how they would rate if a leader performs well, is if the leader sprays money on the road. That's all he will do. Do you understand my point? If the expectations of the governed are nice roads, that's all he would focus on. I mean a good governor or a good leader. Let me just assume that this person is a good person. So I think culturally, you always have that cultural thinking construct that technology, by the ruling class, probably, they still actually understand that the literacy rate in Nigeria is quite low.
Okay.
Even among graduates, to be honest. The literacy rate is a little bit low. There are a lot of people that just to set up a Facebook account, they feel like they are tech pros. Are you getting my point?
Okay.
Yeah, if something as basic as setting up a Facebook account makes you feel like a developer, that should give you like an idea of our tech literacy rate. So if I would spend 500, let's say because of corruption, I go to a firm and they say they want to set up like stuff for somebody to apply for local government online, maybe for Imo State or Anambra or Bayelsa or Delta or Kano or Kaduna, for example. And the firm bills me 700 million, right? Padding budget there about, maybe it's over that. As a leader, if I know I can do one street light in this area and they will think I'm doing well, compared to me putting that stuff online, and when it is online, in my state, it will be less than 5% of the applicant that will use it. Are you following me?
Yeah, very well.
Do you get where I'm coming from? So if you have the average state in Nigeria, let's say, I don't want to mention names, so nobody's state feels attacked.
Yeah.
Right? But outside of Lagos and a couple other states in the country, for most of our states, if you do a process online, how many people above 40, 38 would use it? There are still Nigerians that would not want to use some neobanks app because I want to see who I go if my money lost.
Yeah.
Do you understand? There are still Nigerians that will say where their office day.
Yeah.
Do you get my point, man? So me as a politician, quote and unquote, the person as a politician is thinking, how will I invest 4 billion in something that there's the people that will give me votes would appreciate it.
I get you.
So most of the things that would at times move us forward in the ecosystem, we don't give them votes. But they would make us better. They'll make our economy better. Right? I'm just saying the selfish nature of the average human being, which the politician is not exempted from.
Yeah.
Right? That is which boils me down to my first point around innovation. Setting up a Facebook account, doing a bank transfer with your phone and I'm sure this is a wide statistics, but for a good number of people in our country, you are a tech bro for doing that. And it's something we do not realize because you might be speaking from a place of privilege. But there are many people that have not even seen internet-connected phones. And you're talking about registering local government online.
I'm using that as a case study, though.
Do you understand my point? So there's a lot of work we need to do to boost literacy levels, boost views on technology. They don't even have light. They don't even have drinking water in the entire community. Before we even start discussing, they should register stuff online. Do you understand? And to be honest, most of our politicians on every side of the aisle understand this. So they know the main people that matter in terms of numbers do not need what we are both proposing on this chair.
Yeah.
Do you understand my point? So what is the way out of that conundrum? That gridlock? I don't know. To be honest, I'm not a policy maker. And I don't want to claim to be. Because I can't know everything. But I can say I know and I can see that is a problem. Do you understand my point? So which is why you feel like a lot of things are encumbered in the cities, right? Because of outside of it. That's why I really respect what Money Point has done.
Where do you think they got it right, though?
So I have not been able to. I listened to a podcast or an interview one time where the CEO was talking about one of the days where he was happiest was when he got his business model right or something. But I listened to that one time. And then I would say they were able to ignore the tech bro noise. Right? The tech bro noise is the flashy UI, flashy code, doing something that the middle class young game boy could relate to.
Okay.
And then they looked at basically what are the market women saying and how can we make lives easier for them, and created structures, do you understand, to ensure those guys thrive. So they came from the middle class tech bro life and then went down. I don't want to say went down, but went to another segment and solved the problem that was at scale. It's a problem across the country. Do you understand my point? Why? Because of we don't have even distribution of banks. I want to mention one state that I know that the entire capital has only one bank branch of one of Nigeria's top 10 banks. The entire capital has just, I don't necessarily want to mention the bank, right? But the entire capital has just one bank branch of that bank.
Okay.
So it should tell you that when they didn't have POS, you should imagine the number of queues they had to go through. So that was a problem. Do you understand? That firms like OPay and the likes are now solving. Do you understand? So to actually answer your question as regards what government can do, we shouldn't necessarily need to start at the high level, Face ID and fingerprint scan and data analytics. No. At the low level, how can we even the literacy rates? How can we build local technologies to solve local problems on a government level? How can we improve the quality of life? How can we spread internet access? How can we make it cheap? There are many countries that you go to, many that have free Wi-Fi's at public places.
Okay.
Do you understand my point? Is there somewhere I can just go to and sit down and I'll browse for future updates without paying money?
I think, sorry to jump in here. I was listening to Jill Ambani. Abani is I don't know if Abani is the CEO of Joe, and he was the one that brought cheap internet access to India. They said him bringing that cheap internet access to India skyrocketed India participation in the IT space very well. So you saw a lot of Indians started
Do you
adapting
get? Yeah. So
internet.
the
So
thing,
he
what
now
you
gave
need to
birth
do.
he gave birth he gave birth to PTM, which now became more like our money point. PTM is the one handling the
You can
Indian
imagine.
economy.
Yeah.
So I get your point in terms of having cheaper access to
Yeah,
data.
cheaper access to the internet, electricity. So there are just some basic tools that makes it easier for any young guy here that he knows when he gets home that he doesn't have anxiety attacks on the cost of fuel, on his data is finishing too quickly. Do you understand my point? So I think the government can play a role. I think the first step of government is to even the playing field.
Yeah.
Make it easy for somebody in the far north or the far south or the far east or the far west to enter into any industry with the same ease that I will enter into the industry from Lagos or Abuja. Currently, it's not that way.
So what do you think is the future of technology in Africa?
I think we're really going to have a lot of local Pan-African solutions solving local problems. All the problems we just mentioned are temporary. I don't see us having, hopefully, to be honest, I don't see us still having internet connectivity issues and high internet prices and electricity problems in the coming decades, probably 2-3 decades. Hopefully, we solve that problem. But I'm pretty confident that when we solve it, much like what India is in the talent ecosystem on a global level, I think we'll have that also because people build out of pain, right? They typically know how to forge great solutions because most of the things that the West are using are what some people would define here as luxuries. Some basic things. Do you understand? So I feel like the future of technology in Africa is going to be a tool that will transform governance. It will transform our local politics. And it would be the bedrock for where transparency will be built, especially in governance. Right? It will be like a bedrock. Like, for example, I can just imagine our political discourse without social media. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Do you understand my point? Without social media, it's not the same. There are a lot of things that have happened on social media that has made its way to the presidency.
Yeah, true.
That has made its way to a bill in the House of Reps. So I'm very sure that technology will influence our politics in a positive light over time. It is not something hopefully I have kids and it's in our lifetime, but my kids should come and meet a better country, to be honest. Right? But I think it's going to play a major role. Let me touch on regulation a bit.
Yeah.
We probably complain about FX issues, outflow. A lot of firms that probably want to start up typically have to go and register a company in the US or in foreign countries. So because of the ease of putting dollars in, probably for investors, just to get in investors, it is probably common in the ecosystem. If we have an issue with bringing dollars in and the government has still not looked for a solution for that problem, I don't think it's good. The average startup is getting $5 million in investment, right? If we do the maths, I'm not sure what the maths is, but I'm sure every year since 2017, Nigeria probably has averaged, I'm not sure, this is but it should have averaged $100 to $200 million in foreign investment to our startups. But I'm not sure.
But none of them came directly to the Nigerian
Yes.
bank. Yeah, I get you.
Do you know what $150 to $200 million would have done to our exchange rates? Probably. Do you understand? So if let the government go and understand, I'm sure the government knows, they should go and understand what is the problem with the investor chunking his money here. Is it for taxes? Is it for getting it out? And then let's solve it. Because the more our ecosystem grows, probably we have 2 or 3 unicorns now. If somebody maybe wants to buy that unicorn, probably they want to buy out I don't know, for $1.5 billion, and that money has to be deposited somewhere else. Do you understand my point?
Yeah.
Imagine they are buying in a year, they buy 3 or 4 or 5 of our unicorns, and the founders are willing to sell, and that converts to $10 billion worth of deals, but it's outside.
Yeah, I get you.
Do you understand my point? So from a regulation perspective, the government needs to be a step ahead. What problems is the ecosystem facing? And how can we solve it for the benefit of Nigeria?
Okay, so my last question. It's you're an engineer, you lead an engineering team. You're the CEO of ChainConsult. What would be your advice to young Nigerian youth, young African youth that want to become a developer? How will you? What steps will you advise them to take? I know that your younger brother is also an engineer.
So my point is, when you say young Nigerian youth that want to become engineers,
yeah,
I still consider myself young Nigerian youth, to be honest. And I don't think I should be advising anybody.
But you have built something.
Yeah. So I would answer your question.
Take your flowers, my guy.
Yeah, I'll answer your question, but I still classify myself in the young Nigerian youth. So I say, how would I advise my fellow brothers? So what I would say, for me, on a personal level, was firstly when I joined the ecosystem, about, I think it's probably 11 or 10 years now. There are people that have been there longer, right? But I already typically had a passion for computers, right? Automations. Okay, so I actually had an idea. So when we were young, right, I didn't necessarily know any technical person, meaning like this guy is a developer and he's actually making money from this stuff. Like I didn't know anybody like that because of the sphere of contact that I had access to. So the only people that we used to check online our Nokia C4 then was Mark Zuckerberg, right? So all my goons, all of us were putting on shirts and like basically wanted to dress like him. Basically those were the guys we had as models at the early stages. So I can't count the number of guys that tried to build Facebook that I know. In 2014, 15, 16, built something like that in Nigeria. But basically I remember then, I also tried to build a social network for youth corpers, right? And that was in 2015, 16, thereabouts. But my point is, what drove us to the industry was we had ideas that we wanted to build. We now had to learn the skill to build it. And it was a passion. So it wasn't juicy. Do you understand? Okay. So maybe if somebody had told me then that I would be an engineer, then I would lead it and I would make this kind of money, or I would say, because it wasn't really that way then, to be honest. As where I stayed, maybe where other people stay was different, but where I stayed, it wasn't that way. So first of all, I'm making you understand that it wasn't trendy. And we didn't have models that had made money from it, at least in the local ecosystem, on a large level. I think 2015 was when Pista got into Y Combinator, and that was really big for us mentally, like the ecosystem in Nigeria. And when Mark Zuckerberg came to Nigeria, it was really big. And what those guys did that brought him in was really massive for the ecosystem. But I'm saying everybody that was in the industry pre-2015, 14, 13 was probably, maybe I'm building websites for people and all of that. But it wasn't something that you thought you could build $1 billion out of. Probably, yeah, you saw the Mark model, but we didn't have any models in Nigeria. That's my point. Yeah. So there was no roadmap you were following. We didn't have a clear example. There are a lot of people that were doing a lot of things for free that they charge for now. I have friends like that. Yeah. Do you understand? They didn't even know it was a business, probably. So it was passion that took most people into it then. And then the passion turned to profit later. So for the youngins probably that probably want to go into the industry, and it is what I always tell everybody, is to first identify the role you want to play. Work within stuff you have passions for. If you have a passion for music, right, you should now go and see how technology can make music industry better. Yeah. right? And learn that and build a career along that. Don't jump into a career because people are making money out of it. Because every career has ups and downs. Do you understand? And the downs, what keeps you during the downs is your passion. It's not the money, because there's no money then.
All right. Thank you for coming, Nicholas.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
It's been fun. It's been fun having you, my brother.
Thanks,
so,
Chef.
like I said, it's a great conversation. So I wanted no hold backs.
I tried as much as I could not to hold back.
I wanted us to have a conversation, and thank you for sharing your
Thank you
knowledge.
Very much.
Cannot be contained in 40 minutes, but you did your best.
Thank you, man.
To pour out so much. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.